you're going to have to say, because I don't, by the way, Mike. So there we go. Let's detach me from this. But your grandchildren say to you, Mike, Granddad Mike, did
Yes,
you really eat dead animals? You'll have to say, that's what we did back then.
to the bone. I ate it to the bone. I sucked on the bone and got the grizzle. That was the
so,
best part.
the thing
They run out.
Greetings, everyone. Come on in and have a seat up front for the Funny Muscle Podcast. If you're here, then you're looking to learn how to create laughs like a pro. So please help me welcome to the stage your co-host to help you do that, economics professor and open micer Chris Stifler and comedian turned author Mike Lucas.
And I acknowledge people who are better than me quite a few times in the book because, just because I understand how it works doesn't mean I'm the best at it, right? Yeah. There were people, Sean Locke, who's died 2021, when I watch him, I go, I don't know why I even bother doing it. He's so good. Phil Kay, when he improvises, I don't know why anyone bothers improvise when I watch Phil Kay, but his success rate is very, he'll go one way or the other because he improvises his whole gig. And if they go with it, it's the most magical thing in the world. If they don't, it can be a horrific car crash. But Phil Kay's improv is globally the best I've ever seen. And when I watch him, I go, I don't know why any of us have even bothered talking to the audience when I watch what you can do.
Sometimes those car crashes are more fun for the back of the room than for the audience.
There's a comedian called Tim Vine, who I mentioned in my book. And so the third chapter, where everything comes together, I've said in 2 chapters, by sticking 4 extra four syllables in the middle of a joke, and it falls apart. The balloon pops, the seesaw goes, and there's a leak where the balloon leaks, we know where the joke's going, the rhythm goes, it falls apart, 4 syllables on a punchline. And the joke, when I first saw him do it, was at Just for Laughs in 1998. And I was with Julian Barrett, who's a very successful comic actor now. We're at the back of the room, and Tim Vine did his gig. There were kind of a lot of puns and wordplay and very silly. And all these LA agents in suits looked at him like, why are you doing this children's jokes? But so that he just culturally people go, oh, our comedy doesn't work in America and they don't get our humor, and vice versa. Not true. You've got loads of our sitcoms, we've got loads of your sitcoms. My favorite stand-ups are nearly all American. And I see them in England doing well. So it's a myth. But Tim Vine was an example of an audience culturally not going with someone. And he's wobbling his head on the punchline. It's very silly. And he did the joke in the book. He said, so I rang up British Telecom. So British Telecom's a phone company, right? So he said, I rang up British Telecom. I said, I want to report a nuisance phone call. He said, not you again, which I love, right? And and he deepens the voice. Well, he said, not you again. And it got silenced. And he's wobbling his head like it's going well, just carrying on like it's mad. The difference between stand-up going well and not and it going well is a person talking in a room on their own while everyone watches them go, why is that person talking, right? But when he did that line, Julie and I screamed for 2 reasons. 1, the joke was beautiful, and 2, the audience didn't find it funny. So it's a 2-track, right? It was screaming.
The joke is funny, so we laughed. No one else thought it was funny, so we laughed harder.
Exactly. That's one of my favorite moments ever. And I'm so glad I was able to use that joke as an example of a balloon pop and a seesaw. And when I mentioned this in the book as well, when I rang him up and asked for permission to use it, he didn't answer his phone, but he rang me back and I didn't answer my phone, left a voice message, and the voice message started with him doing the joke. So I've got it. I've got it on my voicemail. It's just beautiful. Beautiful. What a lovely thing to leave the voice message with the joke in question.
Yeah, that's his permission.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned about American and British comedy, and that I was curious. I actually had a woman had texted me, or not texted me, it was on Twitter, and she said American comedy gigs are so different from British style comedy gigs, and I've done both. It'd be great to see if this, meaning the book I did, applies to the comedy scene in the UK. And I said that these books break down how to create original laughs the way the pros do it, more than a particular country's comedy scene. In that sense, it would work on either side of the pond, because a joke is a joke, and if it's well crafted, a good audience will pick up on that and appreciate that. And I'm just curious, have you done a lot of performances in America? What are the differences in your mind between not just the comedy, but also the comedians and the clubs and all that?
Right. So first of all, I did 3 weekends in Atlanta, one gig in Miami, one gig in San Francisco, but I've done loads in Canada. I've done four Just Laughs. I did the Just Laughs tour. So I did 27 shows in a month across Canada, 17 cities. Amazing. But that's Canada. But America, yeah, 12, 5, 10, 15, that's 16 shows in America in total. It's not a lot in 30 years, right? First of all, the book it's international without a doubt. Without a doubt. It's also timeless because it applies to anything I've seen in the past.
Right.
It's like music. Don't go, the chords on a guitar are going to be the same in 50 years' time, right? They're chords. Right. The style of music will change. Genres come in, but the chords are still there. Right. So, no, the book is international and timeless. The difference in America I found is audiences are excited from the minute they sit down. So I've seen the MC go on stage going, "Welcome to the show," and then go straight into a joke and they laugh, right? Now in England, that wouldn't happen. The MC would have to go a little bit of crowd work. They might do a joke from the beginning, but it won't get a huge laugh. They'll go, "Before we start, I want to say I'm from Birmingham, my accent's this," then do a joke about it, so then there's a half laugh, and then they go into some crowd work. So they might establish themselves with one joke to do crowd work. English comedians do more crowd work than American comedians. Instagram's changed that because everyone wants their 15-minute clip. But my experience of comedy in the States is they very much have their act. Here's my act. Now, that's my experience. If people listen and go, "That's not true." My experience watching 16 shows on stage was they go, "Here's my act. It's the same every night." English comedians do more improv and interaction, crowd work. English MCs will sometimes do only crowd work.
Oh.
Only crowd work.
Interesting.
And yeah, now I'm making sweeping statements here. Of course, there are American comedians who do that as well. But when I watched American comedians, and I have watched a lot, and also I've watched lots of clips as well, they very often go, "Here's my set." And Americans like to see, I don't know, their default mode is happier than English people. English people sit and go, "No, the weather's shit. Oh, I wonder if he's going to be good. He's probably rubbish." Your default mode is, have a nice day. We don't do have a nice day. We don't want you to have a nice day. And we're certainly not going to say it.
Piss off.
Yeah, well, there's a comedian called Jeff Green Jeff Green's a guy I mentioned who pops his balloons in the middle of a sentence that then mumbles underneath it, so that the joke still exists on that explosive moment, but he mumbles underneath, as opposed to pops the balloon halfway through a sentence and talks over where you want to laugh. You're waiting to laugh. "I wish he stopped talking." Right? Jeff Green mumbles. So Jeff Green had a line about American service being fake. People say American service is fake because, "Well, I'd rather be told to have a nice day by someone who doesn't mean it than to fuck off by someone who does." Great line, right?
It's a great line. That's funny.
So so Americans, their default mode is happy, so they sit down and go, "Right, comedy, bang." And I've seen it. The first laugh's huge. I'm going, "Why are they laughing so much? They haven't been warmed up yet." So again, there'll be people listening and go, "No, our crowds take a while to warm up." Go on, sorry.
That might flow into the conversation about rolling energy that you talk about in the book. Is it more important to get the rolling energy in London than it is if an American crowd that's going to pop on the first line?
If an American crowd pop on the first line, the rolling energy is there from the beginning, yeah, but you can still drop it. I've still seen an audience dip in America. If you cease to be funny, they'll stop laughing. My point is, they turn up going, "Great, we're going to laugh." I've seen it every single time. They just go, "Hi, bang." And I know there'll be comedians watching it. You don't know how tough it was the other day opening a show, emceeing a show. My personal experience is, even a great packed English audience, the first laugh's still a half laugh. Like the Comedy Store Leicester Square is the ultimate comedy venue. It's 400 people in a basement, low ceiling. The compere will still go on. It will be one half laugh, and then the next laugh will be big. It's very rare to walk on and say, "Welcome to the show," bang, whoa, like that. It's just because the energy has to be created. And Americans they're happier people. I think you're happier. Or you've certainly been told by the person that gave you antidepressants you're happier.
We're highly medicated over here, so
yeah. There's a Black Thought.
We mix it with alcohol.
There's a rap called Black Thought. He's got an opening line to a song. "I'm not your typical arrogant American on prescribed medicine. I'm sick as I ever been." Isn't that lovely?
I'm dedicated to my illness.
Yeah, but also arrogant American. It sounds like African American as well, and he's black. So yeah, I'm not your typical arrogant American on prescribed medicine. I'm sick as I ever been. I love it. It's very philosophical and great rhyming. But yeah, whatever makes you happy, you're happy.
So you like the rap. So I'm saying it like a nerd, but so compare that with your delivery of your material, because watching your set, there's a lot of that with the speed and with the rhythm and all that, like you could argue that there's a rap like quality to your
Yeah,
material.
I've been influenced by rap. My dad's a jazz musician, so I've been influenced by music and rhythm. The best compliment I've ever had as a comedian was there was a comedian backstage at the Comedy Store strumming his guitar. You couldn't hear it on stage. I'm on stage, and the TV's got the volume of the gig being filmed. So we've got me on quiet volume and the guitar at the same volume. And the comedian said to me, "I thought you were rapping." I thought you were rapping because he had the music backing that wasn't in the room, and and he thought I
Right.
thought you were doing a rap because the music helped back up that thought that it was musical. And yeah, I mean, I watched Mitch Hedberg live twice, very lucky, and he had the mic in the stand one time, and he was rocking, with looking up like a rock star, dark glasses, looking up, just rocking, and he's rocking because he's feeling the energy in the room, and he's stirring it, and he's timing is da 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 da, and it was masterful. He was bathing in the rhythm in the room. And he wouldn't, if he stood still, he wouldn't get in the zone. And if someone else might go, I've seen Mitch standing still. Okay, but in his mind, the rhythm's there. But when I saw him, he was rocking to the rhythm, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It's the intense, tangible energy in a room. That when you walk in a room and it's buzzing, what's that buzz? You walk in the back of the room and it's buzzing. You're just seeing the backs of heads. Why is it buzzing? What is that buzz?
Yeah.
It's a sixth sense we've got. We go, there's a good atmosphere. We're going to go, there's a good atmosphere in this room. There's a bad atmosphere. I've walked in a room and can tell someone's having a bad gig. Just that. But the sound holding their breath, I don't know what it is. Maybe they're giving off some chemicals that I can smell as a caveman. I don't know what it is. But I do know when I walk in a room and there's a buzz in that room, you go, this is a great atmosphere. This comedian's having a great gig. You can walk in not on a laugh. You can walk in between laughs and you can just feel that thing hanging in the air.
And it's something. It's like, it's a thick energy.
It's amazing.
Either way.
It's amazing. And this is why when I said about the chapter on rolling energy, I said, if you haven't been on stage yet, now's a good time to get out your pen and make notes, because you can't describe rolling energy to someone who's never been on stage. You can, an audience member who goes to Comedy Doc can get it, but you can't understand. When someone says that joke wasn't funny, it never crosses their mind that joke might be funny to them another night. No, it wasn't funny. Or that comedian, a whole audience all thinks someone's not good. But another night, the same room. I mean, I did a gig recently where the comedian went on first, had the best gig of the night. He opened, had the best gig of the night, right? And then the next night, he opened and got letters of complaint about the same material, right? How did they all love him one night? Because the zeitgeist in the room went, yep, we're going with this. He got letters, he got a tweet. The tweet copied all of us in and said, oh, it's a really good night, but he was awful, offensive, shouldn't be booked again. I was like, okay. And I didn't get involved. I never get involved. But I wanted to reply and go, it's funny because the night before, same demographic, same kind of people, he had the best gig of the night.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can, as a headliner, you can walk into the room and then you can feel the energy, however it is. And then it's yours to either increase or lose. Like that's your job as the last comedian. You either take it and run with it and increase it and heighten it, or else you don't get it and then you don't grab it and then it falls away, and that's the worst feeling.
It's the worst feeling. Dropping the ball.
Oh, it's awful. I mean,
you miss it.
I do. I'm flirting with getting back into it and going back on stage, because after having written the books, I feel like I've got like this. I have two little kids. I've got an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old. So
I got.
I stopped because I wanted to be home. I got tired of coming home and saying, "Hey, it's me, Dad," and the kids were like, "Remind us."
Have you got two? What have you got? Boy, girl?
I've got an 11-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl.
I got two girls.
You got two girls? How old?
Same age.
Same age, yeah. And now they're old enough, as you probably have figured out, that they kind of don't want me around the house anymore. When's your next gig? Exactly. Yeah, the 14-year-old is just, we go on walks together, and just the outfits I wear are just humiliating to her. Why would you wear that? People can see us. But it's good. And I think being a parent, well, tell me about that. As a parent, how does that affect your take on not just what's funny, but like sort of the idea of how humor is to the world? Do you feel a different responsibility to the jokes you do, or do you have a different take because you have children? You're a parent now. Being a parent, you're really forced to look outside of yourself in a different way than when you're single. or when you're not a parent. So how has that affected your material?
I don't think it's affected my material, but I had my best financial year when my first daughter was 1. And I think that was because I was putting out there to universe that I needed to provide. And and so I think I took corporate comedy more seriously. So I went out and bought a new suit. So therefore I turned up in a really nice suit and I wrote some material about the company, which I talk about in the book. And I just think I felt like I'm not mucking around anymore. Somebody needs me.
Yeah.
So therefore I would, corporate comedy, I suddenly excelled in that area. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I mean, there's an Italian phrase, every baby's born with a loaf of bread under their arm.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Meaning that, yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of countries who would disagree with that quite offensively, but
By
yeah,
that baby being born, it forces you to step up and want to provide for them, and
yeah,
that's sort of
yeah,
a thing that you don't have when you don't have the baby.
yes, yeah. So that's what. But I don't think my approach to actually writing it
Yeah.
changed. I had loads of stuff about my children when they become parent because your brain's stimulated by all new things. You're watching someone breastfeeding for the first time in your life, so you get a breastfeeding joke. That's why changing your scenery is very good for you go to a new country. If you move to Canada and you haven't got a joke about Canadians in 6 months, then you're not a natural comedian.
If it takes you that long,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
what would you say? Like, how would you? I wouldn't say rate, but how would you sort of what's your take on the state of comedy right now? And I started in the late '80s, and then '90s is when I sort of did my thing, and then in the 2000s, and so I watched it go from a comedy boom to just it's gonna end, and then it just never ended. But it was like wounded, and it was missing an arm, and it was limping, and it was just like oh, we're here on Thursdays at this bowling alley, we're still alive. And now it feels like the clubs have sort of got a resurgence. A lot of times people were staying home because they could watch Comedy Central, and they felt like it was the same thing, and we were trying to convince them that it wasn't. A live show is just a different animal. It's like watching a band as opposed to listening to the album.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of things have happened in my time. Obviously, we had a pandemic. Netflix made people stay in. We had a cost of living crisis. We had a fuel crisis, heating crisis. We had a recession before the pandemic. So I think there was a time where fewer people were going to comedy because they go, you know what? I can stay at home, watch Netflix, get a takeaway. I'm already £50, £100 better off by staying in. And so that I think affected us. People watching, okay, the state of comedy. I have a problem with people watching 15-second clips and then going to a live show having only watched 15-second clips, thinking that comedy is about crowd work, thinking that the best comedians are the ones who have got 15-second clips. And then there are comedians who can sell out theaters now who can't do an hour, but they're
can't do 15 minutes.
Yeah, and they're filling it up, and they're filling the time, and padding the time. And that worries me. I think that 15-second clips being the most watched comedy there is means that when someone watches an hour, they might possibly not be completely gripped for the whole hour. They might not even watch it all, or they might start talking halfway through, or they pause it and don't watch it in one go. To me, you watch a special, you watch it in one go, right? When I watched Delirious, I didn't stop and go out. You should have the experience they have.
Yeah.
If the audience should watch it all the way through, then you should watch it all the way through.
Yeah.
So obviously you get an important phone call, but I mean, you should choose to watch it. So the attention span thing worries me. That does worry me. People is a little bit ruder now. I think young people will be on their phones. Young people talk to each other. People heckle because they think that's what you're supposed to do.
I'm helping. I'm just helping you. It's so much funnier when I say stuff and then you respond. It's like, no, I'm surviving you.
Yeah, so I think that the social media thing, and on a little level, a little. When I was coming up, the reason I got on television was I was doing the Edinburgh Festival every year, doing an hour show, and people going, he can turn over a new hour a year, and he's good. Like now, it's like he's got a 15-minute clip that's really popular. That I don't like that being the criteria for being considered good.
Yeah.
Because, and also merit, when someone works on merit, you could say that there's a meritocracy now because anyone who's got a clip gets ratings and viewings and the best gets liked. But let's look at the word best. People with 15-second attention spans who aren't actually prepared to part with money to go to a show, if they're deciding who's best, what do they know? Whereas when I was doing it, it would be people, TV producers who would spend a whole week watching comedy up there and go who in front of a live audience, watching people in front of a live audience, seeing how they could control an audience for an hour, and working comedy enough to at least go, that's original, that's derivative. Now I'm kind of contradicting myself because earlier I said how many producers did it take to change the light bulb? Does it have to be a light bulb, right? But my point is when you put something in television, they can crop it so much it loses its magic. And I'll give you an example of that. I did a live, not live, I did a TV show at the Edinburgh Festival that was recorded as live, and I got heckled quite a lot by a woman in a TV recording. So I dealt with her, and then the third time I did a put down. It was a put down I'd written. It was a joke that I'd written, a heckle put down, and the producer chopped all of her heckles out and just had me putting it down after one heckle, right? I had someone come up in the street and say, you were really harsh to that woman. That's them not understanding that you either have none of it or you have a little, you don't have to have three, but have two, have something, because I'm brutal to this woman. So that's them going, oh, there's the heckle, there's the funny bit. No. The funny bit exists because she was annoying.
Yeah, it built.
It built. Did you say it built?
Yeah, it built.
Yeah. So that's an example of an editor or producer not knowing what they're doing. But with regard to someone going, if something's based on merit, you go, well, okay, what is the definition of merit? Well, if that clip's got 4 million views and that's got 100,000 views, then that one's better. We'll go, okay, but let's look at it. The people watching this are not people who watch comedy. They're people who just go, oh, this is my friend showing me this funny thing. When I look at the stuff that goes viral, it's not often very good. And you go, well, who are you to say it's not often very good? I'm the guy who wrote Finding Your Comic Jews.
I have a bit of a say in it.
Look, if within an industry, Sean Locke was considered like the comedian's comedian. And if you went to see Sean Locke and go, I didn't like it, of course that's your choice to not like it. But if you go, it's unoriginal, I could go, well, no, because everyone in my industry acknowledges this is a very, very original style. He's got a unique perspective on life. You can't make someone like it. Of course it's subjective. But when a whole industry, when someone goes, Miles Davis is this, and you've never listened to it that time, you go, I thought it was rubbish. Okay, well, you didn't like it, that's fine. But within our industry, that's considered good. But I suppose an industry can agree with, if hundreds of people give their life to something, they can go, that's original, right? I don't understand Picasso, but when the whole art world globally for decades and whatever says this is a genius, I don't get it, but I can't come along and tell you that something's unoriginal if it's acknowledged in its industry as original. It's like that phrase when people say, oh, everyone's entitled to an opinion. Okay, well, let's have a look at that then. Because if you've never seen something, you walk into an industry and go, that's good, that's bad, it's my opinion. You go, okay, but everyone in their industry says that's unoriginal because they've seen enough of it to develop an opinion. There we go. So if you've seen enough of something to develop an opinion based on understanding what goes on in that industry, you can go, someone wanders in and goes, this is really a funny clip, it's really original. Go, no, it's derivative, it's a cliche, the structure's very, very hacky, it's been done before, it's a really easy subject, it's low-hanging fruit, they're just picking on something everyone's annoyed with and they're talking about it in a very unoriginal way, the delivery's wrong, the bad timing, and they go, yeah, but I like it. I can't stop you liking it, but I can tell you that within the industry, that would never be considered the best clip. Right. So democracy and meritocracy are not the same things. Democracy says this clip of the guy going, oh, my girlfriend's eyebrows, she shaved her eyebrows off, she's drawn them on, she looks ridiculous, right? And that goes viral because everyone's got a 16-year-old daughter who shaved their eyebrows. Oh, it's really funny. I got 15-second attention span. I've never bought a ticket in my life to a comedy show, but that's the best thing I've ever seen, right? That's democracy, right?
Right.
But when you go, what is merit? The comedy industry, when you get rebooked at a club, it's because the promoter who watches comedy has seen you do well repeatedly and it's original. There are people who do well who aren't original. They don't get rebooked because it's a bit obvious. It's a bit hacky. They go, I did my open spot. I did really well at your club. I know, but it was quite unoriginal. We want original. Ultimately, you want original and does well with the audience. That's what you ultimately want. Then you have a little bit of compromise as a book. You go, it's not that original, but it does really well. Okay, we book him. It's really original, but she sometimes struggles a bit, but it's really original. We'll book her because she's really good. Like when I said he, she, that was random using both genders. My point is that somebody can really knock the ball out the park, but be unoriginal and the club will not book them because they just go, it's a bit hacky. So, some promoters have such a dignity. They go, I'm not just going to book what does well. I'm going to book what does well and is good, won't book what does well is not good, and I will book someone who's really good, even though it doesn't always knock the ball out of the park, because I love the art. And I saw a club. The lady who said to me, "Oh, you punched my husband," Jane Matthews. She was at the back of a room, and there was a comedian on stage who wasn't doing that well. She was in stitches, and I said, "The crowd aren't going with it." You know what she said? "I don't care."
Yeah. Because I know
And
it's funny. I've been here enough to know what who's
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Have you worked in Minneapolis, Minnesota? I guess you said
No,
you hadn't.
no.
You should investigate. Lewis Lee is that kind of owner. He is a guy who he's so in touch with comedy and what's good, like original and does well. He has an open mic on Mondays that is one of the best in the country, and
Really.
because, and then he goes, that's where I train my audiences. That's where I train them to want
Making my own
high
decisions.
level, above the net
I like it.
stuff.
I
And
like it.
so he is a guy who would appreciate a guy like you who appreciates this kind of stuff.
That's lovely. I tell you a story. A friend of mine said he was in New York in the early '90s. Can I say something crass? Can I say something?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, well, he said it's a packed comedy club, and the owner's at the back of them, the venue owner, and he turns around to the promoter, so the venue owner, and says, "Hey, he's on form tonight, isn't he?" And emotionlessly, he went, "Listen, if there's a woman on that stage who could open a beer bottle with her vagina, and one more person was prepared to buy a ticket to see it, he'd be off that stage in 2 minutes."
Okay. I see where your priorities lie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and that brings up another question that I thought of earlier. That right now it's the politically correct thing, the idea that you can be canceled, the idea that there are some ideas that you're not allowed to talk about or make
right.
jokes about, and which is I don't agree with that at all. But that's sort of what a lot of people will say. What in your mind, like, how does that affect how you go about performing, and what's your take on the idea that people are that damn sensitive now?
Well, there's a bit I used to do that I brought back recently, and it didn't work. And I thought, I know what it is. There's a few words about women that they go, "Oh, yeah, yeah, you're doing that, you're doing that." And in actual fact, I would argue it's a feminist statement. But at the moment when they hear a word, they go, "Oh," they detach.
Yeah.
This joke stopped working. In the space of 2 years of not doing it, something changed in audience attitudes. We are all sheep. We're being dictated how we think by the media and people around us, and we are being told what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. So the audience is now going, no. And if someone vocalized, I feel like going, do you know, 2 years ago you'd have laughed at that, but you're just a sheep, right? And the fact of the matter is, we're all being affected. All our things, when your grandchildren say to you, "Did you really eat animals? Did you eat dead animals?" You're going to have to say, because I don't, by the way, Mike. So there we go. Let's detach me from this. But your grandchildren say to you, Mike, Granddad Mike, "Did
Yes.
you really eat dead animals?" You'll have to say, "That's what we did back then."
To the bone. I ate it to the bone. I sucked on the bone and got the grizzle. That was the best part.
So the thing is,
They run out.
so the
That
thing
was
is,
going to eat us. He's going to eat us. What's the difference?
but so this bit, I've had to try and either drop it or shave off the bit that causes offense and try and rewrite the ending, because I can't keep doing something that doesn't work. They're not going with it. That's that.
It's a
If
hiccup
there's
in
no
your
laughter, there's no
rhythm.
comedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is that, however, I do think anyone who does something challenging has a responsibility to keep pushing audiences gently. So I was writing for someone the other day, and I came up with a joke. It was an analogy about him and his wife in bed, and it was about procreation, and he went, "No, no, 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 it will trigger people." And I was like, is there anything more beautiful than someone getting married and making a baby? But it was a joke about being in bed, and there was the thought of maybe it sounded like it was non-consensual, which it wasn't. It was like, no, I'm not going there. Go. If we all have that attitude, comedy can be sanitized to the point that no one's getting offended by anything, because everyone's making sure that this was an analogy about procreation with a couple who are married in love.
Right.
And he was like, "Oh, it might trigger people because it might sound non-consensual." It's not non-consensual. And if that one person in a 50 gig goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, that's a sexual, what's the word? See, I'm so woke, I don't even know what the word is." But the point is that if you're sanitizing your comedy in case 1 in 1,000 people take offense, then comedy is going to change dramatically, and it's going to be this horrible safe space comedy where no one's been challenged. Of course we need to be challenged. We have to decide if a joke's okay to laugh at. That's part of the thrill when you go through the process. Can I laugh at that? And then your body tells you can, and you feel guilty that you laughed. So I've said to friends in dressing rooms, we have a responsibility individually to keep just pushing them the right amount. Otherwise, we'll become part of the problem. Doing something, dropping something through fear of offending means if everyone does that, no one will risk offending, and then comedy the slope will become, it will all be. I mean, let's look at offense. Wokeness is an awareness of social injustice, right? So mocking people for being stupid or having mental health problems would be very unwoke, wouldn't it? To laugh at someone in a wheelchair or laugh at someone whose speech is slurred. Well, Homer Simpson's stupid. And a massive percentage of Simpsons jokes, the best written show in the world ever for me, we're laughing at Homer's stupidity.
Right.
The crux of the joke is Homer. One of my favorite Simpsons shows, it was going up the stairs. They're talking about Bart's whole childhood growing up, and they showed it. Well, they're talking to each other, the Simpsons, and it cut to the staircase, and the camera pulled slowly up on each picture, and it was Bart in a bare bum, then in a nappy, then as a toddler, and then it had him and Lisa, and Bart had his arm around Homer, and behind Homer's head, Bart had a speech bubble, and the speech bubble said, "I stink," right? Which is a lovely visual joke. He's in a photograph, rather than just doing rabbit ears, it says, "I stink," right? And I laughed. Then Homer went, "I don't remember saying that." Beautiful, right? And also the irony that he is a cartoon as well. So he is a cartoon, but pretending to be the real world, thinking the thought you're so stupid that you see a word bubble, you think that was a real word bubble in the world. You actually didn't realize that word bubbles don't exist. It's genius. Yeah. We have to laugh that Homer doesn't realize that he's stupid. That joke cannot exist without someone being stupid. We feel superior to Homer because he doesn't realize word bubbles aren't real. Well, is there going to be a generation? Your grandchildren go, not only did you eat animals, you laughed at stupid people in cartoons.
Shame on shame. That's funny.
Going back to, I like to talk about the comedy persona, because in your book, Mike, your chapter 1 is all about comedy persona.
And, that's your book. Yeah. That's your book.
Yeah. This is Mike's book.
I didn't realize. I've seen it. I've seen it. I bought it and took a big dump on it.
Perfect. I'll return the favor soon enough.
I've seen it. Here's a compliment to you. This on Amazon, right?
Amazon, yeah.
I stopped on it. You're talking about all the books you scroll on. I stopped on it. Yeah. What's it called again?
This is for beginners.
I think it was the whoopee cushion that I thought was a nice touch.
Thanks. Yeah, it's to me the whoopee cushion is sort of like the ultimate example of a joke that sets up a misdirection and then surprises you with what comes out. So to me it was like the comedian's basic sure the template that we all work off of.
At my wedding we gave all the kids whoopee cushions.
and I'm sorry, but fart jokes will always be funny, and I'm sorry. I think they should be as sophisticated as possible, but there's still air coming out of your butthole. So,
well, it's God's best joke, really, isn't it?
Really? Well, except for death.
What if you died of farting?
There have been times where I thought that might be possible, like after a good meal.
I actually don't like the topic at all. What you just got there was the first ever fart joke I've made in 30 years.
Sweet. Yeah. Fart jokes are too easy. Like one of the things that I say in the book is that any of those kind of jokes, they're technically funny, like if you just break them down, but I go with choices 1 through 12 are just not that original, and everybody can come up with a fart joke pretty much, choices 13 and on are what make a comedian original and more funny than the lay person that's in the audience.
Yeah, my question about your book. So you're about comedy persona chapter 1, and Adam, you talk about you make sure it's in your voice, make sure it doesn't remind you of something else, make sure it's not obvious. But like from an open micer who has 10 minutes of material to someone who has 10 hours of material to say that's not in your I get disheartened a lot while Mike coaches me, because I come up with a thing that gets a little laugh, and Mike's like, that's lowbrow, that's not in your voice. That's I guess what's your advice to the open micer who who has a hard time getting rid of a bit because that's 1 minute of the 10 minutes that he actually has, and you've just chopped. See, as a way to push yourself to be better in the future, you have to sacrifice and kill. Like I've heard you say, kill your darlings.
I haven't said that
Now,
phrase in the book myself, but you talking about Mike or me?
No, that's a
I,
Stephen King. That's a Stephen
Yeah,
King
I know we
thing.
use the phrase as well. Yeah, you got a line in a film that's lovely, but doesn't work in the scene. You just take it out, kill your darlings. Yeah. So I look, you got 10 minutes of until to your name. Let's say somebody's got 10 minutes and it's working, right? And then someone says to you, you know that bit there, that really is too cruel. It doesn't suit you. It does damage to your persona. It makes the audience not like you subconsciously. And the next thing you say that's friendly doesn't seem as genuine because you've suddenly been that cruel. I don't think it's good for you. I think you should take it out. And Al Murray, who's a genius comic in England, took me aside after a car journey and he said, "You're a great comedian. You're good. No, you're going to be a great comedian. I think you should drop that bit." And I remember thinking, why are you telling me? Why are you telling me to drop a bit of material that works? Because he cared so much. He thought it was hack, and he was going, "Adam, you're brilliant. Drop it." And it was like, I remember thinking, why do you care? He cared because he cares about comedy, right? So you turn around, you say, look, that bit you got, I don't think it's for you. Go, but it works. I say in the book, people go, but it works. But it works. It's a very short-sighted way of looking at it. Now, if you've been going 6 months and you've got 10 minutes to your name and it all works, that's great. You've achieved something. You've made an audience laugh. The bigger picture now is to go, what bit really doesn't need to be there? And can I learn to write a new bit to replace it? And if you're replacing, like a snake shedding their skin, if you keep replacing with better stuff that suits you, you'll find yourself being a proper comic. You'll go, everything I'm doing has a consistent. I watched a guy last night for the first time. He was new. He looked a bit nerdy at the back of the room. He looks a bit shy. I thought, oh, I hope this nerd in the shopness doesn't come. And he just makes an audience uncomfortable. He was brilliant. He had this angry, nerdy persona, and every joke landed, and he was brilliant, right? And what he had was a consistency in his attitude. We knew who he was, and he kept showing us who he was.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen by him going, but it works. It happened by him understanding who. And the thing is, you don't know who you are immediately. You learn who you are, and you find out who you are, and you lean towards that. So just going, it works, I'm going to keep doing it. Nothing, that kind of, I know this isn't the same, but that's saying the same. The definition of madness is doing the same thing and expecting different results, right? This isn't quite the same, because if you're doing well at gigs, then you are getting results. But this is about moving to the next level. And the next level means really looking at it and going, but it works is not your answer when someone says to you, this isn't you. You go, why isn't it me? Well, you told a story about something that happened to you and it was clearly heartfelt and we believed you and we cared about you. And then you said you went to the moon with your dad. And when you're on the moon, we go, okay, so it's fantastical. Then when you came back from the moon, you told another story about your divorce. And we didn't know whether it was true or not. And we didn't know what to feel for you or not. And it was confusing. But it worked. Yeah, but would it work better if you took out the moon story?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it is out of love. It's out of the big picture. It's out of when you are consistent with your, I call it the comedy lens, but when it comes across throughout your whole act, now we remember who you are. Now we can relate better to what you're saying. Now
Right.
we believe you, and we're going to laugh more because of that. And we're going to tell people about you because we're going to go, oh, he's that guy.
Yeah, it's getting to the volume of the laughter is not the only thing you should be thinking about. It's about the quality of the laughter and the consistency in who you are, them remembering you. And there are sort of knee-jerk reaction laughs. You can do we call it pull back and reveal, when you describe yourself in a situation that sounds like you're in bed with someone, it turns out you're in a shop, and I'm having sex, and it turned out I was in IKEA, right? And you get
Last
that
time I
big
get
laugh.
to, yeah.
Yeah, we call it pull back and reveal. And when you can do those jokes, an audience will go, I can't believe it. Yeah, I thought you were in IKEA. I thought you were in a bed in your wife, but you tricked me in IKEA, right? Those moments, they're two-dimensional. You can feed someone cardboard, they'll feel full up. See, if you only going by being full up, then that's fine. But if you're going by nutrition and wanting to eat it again, if the only objective is that laugh, then you're probably not going to become a good comedian ever.
Yeah, it's great. I love that metaphor. That's great. Now we'll just say, With that joke you just did, you're eating cardboard, my friend.
Ain't cardboard. Well, I actually I use it in the book, and then another chapter on virtual comedy, which is when people make fun of things that are already a joke. I use the cardboard eating analogy as an example of virtual comedy to make fun of someone saying, "Oh, I saw someone the other day said eating comedies, comparing comedy to bad comedy to eating cardboard. Oh, has anyone ever eaten cardboard before? Don't know about you, but I'd always want some ketchup on it. So, which would be making fun of something's already taking a metaphor literally is not good comedy. So I use in virtual comedy an example of my analogy for what virtual comedy is to give an example of virtual comedy. I know that's a bit convoluted, but basically
No, I get it. I get
fun of
it.
analogies. Taking song lyrics literally.
Right.
Song lyrics do not bear scrutiny because they are art. You're like, oh, I saw a Picasso painting. The woman's nose is facing that way. But don't know about you. I wouldn't kiss a girl if her nose was facing that way. It's like, no, it's art. No, girls don't look like that. Well done. Well done for pointing out that Picasso's paintings don't look like people. Taking song lyrics literally, hyperbole, taking hyperbole and mocking it when the singer is being ironic. They are joking. They don't have to have punchlines to be jokes. There is so much humor. Leonard Cohen's lyrics are full of jokes.
Yeah. Funny.
But if you quoted it and go, oh, don't know what you're on about there, well, it was you may as well bring a DVD player and a TV on stage and play a Chris Rock special. Go, saw this guy the other day. He said this. Look, just sit back in the chair and make him watch Chris Rock for an hour. Goes, oh, it's funny, wasn't it?
That's funny. Well, when I was fact checking the Beatles,
I got told to calm down by Paul McCartney once.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was behave yourself. He said, "Oh, behave yourself." I was about to do some live sort of stand up, kind of improv stand up to camera. This is national television live, and Paul McCartney walked in the room because he was being interviewed later, and so he could get all the room looking at him. I was sort of bouncing up and down, about to go on camera, and he went, "Oh, behave yourself." And all eyes went on him, and then suddenly Paul McCartney was the focus of the room because, he walked to the room. Basically, he went, "Everyone look at me." Yeah,
like, dude, they're gonna do that anyways. Give me a break.
Yeah, he didn't like the 5 seconds they were looking at me when they couldn't look at him.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Just to pick your brain on like advice for open micers. If you want to give them like a drill or actually like open micer has one hour a night to work on comedy. Give me a drill or like give me the equivalent of doing 100 push-ups, but for your comedy brain. What drills, exercises, writing would you tell a first year comic to do to generate more material?
Pick a topic you're already talking about and say, I want to talk a bit more about this. I want to talk more about AirPods. So you think, well, what do I think about AirPods? So I've got them now in front of me. Right. When you open them up, the Bluetooth doesn't instantly connect with tell your phone to tell you how many, so you have to open and close them. So I'm now opening and closing it, thinking about Pac-Man. And then I go, when you take them out, there's always a little bit of earwax on them. Everyone's got earwax on them, but it's kind of shameful thing that no one's supposed to have earwax because you're supposed to clean them, but no one cleans them. So you've got Pac-Man, Bluetooth not connecting, earwax. You've got to put them in the wrong way sometimes. It looks stupid because you can't even put a two-piece puzzle together. And then you list all the thoughts on your head on AirPods, then you think the one that's most interesting to you and you expand on it, you write about it. If you get nothing out of that and go to another one on the list. So you've got the Pac-Man, you've got the dirt, you've got the puzzle, you've got what it looks like, a giant tic-tac, whatever, right? You write and then you expand. Then you write out the best one, then you link it to the material you've got, try and find a joke that links in naturally between the two. So you might find another joke when they join. And then you write out again and you look for toppers, then you memorize it, then you go on stage and you try it out, you record it like you said, you play it back, you look for toppers again, then you try it on stage the next night with reworded, changing, tweaks, improvement, and you live and breathe it, and then you don't leave the gig when you come off stage, you watch the rest of the show, then you go home and you think about it again. And if you are talented and you will live and breathe it, you will succeed. It's not about ambition, it's about talent and work. And the industry, if you're, of course, ambition helps. But if you're very good at something and you work hard at it, people will come to you. They will spot you.
That's what Steve Martin said. Be unquestionably good at something and people will find you eventually.
Beautiful.
Love it. Adam, you're great, man. We really appreciate you. And now we consider you a friend of the show.
I'm a friend of yours, hopefully. And I mean, absolutely. You're friends of mine. I hope I'd like to let me know when it's out, please, because I want to hear it.
Yeah, and you can tell you have 17 million followers, and you can just tell them,
It's 18 million now
Oh my God! Just as we were speaking.
in the last hour and a half. Yeah. Oh, I worked out the word count of how many people read my book, how many words in the book, and I worked out the word. It's so egotistical. I've had this many hundreds of millions words read.
We have a lot in common, my friend.
Oh, really? Self-obsessed neurosis.
Right? It's funny. It's well, but I think that's what gets you to really analyze something and break it down in a way that you can understand it and repeat it in a process or in a methodology.
Well, thank you so much.
We appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
And we're saying goodbye, right?
We're saying goodbye. Yes, this is it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, bud. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Cool. That went good.
They were really well.
I loved it. I love his takes. Now I'm going to get his book and shit on it, and send him a picture of it. Just a big pile of turd. Now, yeah, I loved his take. I love his approach. I love his kindness and his cheerfulness. Given he was English, like he says, the English people aren't so happy.